Have you ever wondered if beauty could be dangerous? What if someone's jealousy became so powerful that it turned into pure evil? And what if the kindest heart could break the darkest spell? This is the story of a girl as pure as snow, a queen consumed by vanity, and 7 unlikely heroes who taught the world that true beauty comes from within. This is the tale of Snow White. Once upon a time, on a cold winter's day, a kind queen sat sewing by her window. As she watched the snow fall, she pricked her finger with her needle. 3 drops of blood fell into the white snow on the black window frame. The queen made a wish. "How I wish for a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony." Her wish came true. Soon after, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and her hair as black as night. They named her Snow White. But sadly, the kind queen died shortly after, and the king was heartbroken. A year later, the king remarried. His new wife was breathtakingly beautiful, but her heart was as cold as ice. She was vain and cruel, caring only about being the most beautiful woman in the land. She owned a magic mirror that could answer any question. Every day, the evil queen would stand before her magic mirror and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest in the land." This answer pleased the queen greatly, for she knew the mirror always spoke the truth. Years passed, and Snow White grew into a beautiful young woman. She was not only lovely to look at, but also kind, gentle, and pure of heart. She sang sweetly to the birds, helped the servants, and spread joy wherever she went. Everyone in the kingdom loved her, everyone except the queen. One morning the queen asked her usual question, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" But this time the mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair and beautiful, it's true, but Snow White is 1,000 times more beautiful than you." The queen's face twisted with rage and jealousy. From that moment on, she hated Snow White with every fiber of her being. Consumed by jealousy, the evil queen summoned her huntsman. "Take Snow White deep into the forest and kill her," she commanded coldly. "Bring me back her heart as proof." The huntsman was horrified, but he dared not disobey the queen. With a heavy heart, he led the innocent Snow White into the dark forest. Deep in the woods, the huntsman drew his knife. But when he looked into Snow White's kind, trusting eyes, he couldn't do it. "Run, princess," he cried. "Run far away and never return. The queen wants you dead." Snow White, terrified and confused, fled deeper into the forest. The huntsman killed a wild boar instead and brought its heart to the queen, lying it belonged to Snow White. Snow White ran through the dark forest, branches tearing at her dress, shadows seeming to reach for her. She stumbled over roots and ran until she could run no more. Exhausted and alone, she collapsed by a stream, weeping. She had lost everything, her home, her family, and her safety. But she refused to give up hope. As dawn broke, Snow White discovered a tiny cottage in a clearing. She knocked, but no one answered. Cautiously, she pushed open the door. Inside, everything was small. 7 tiny chairs around a tiny table, 7 tiny plates, 7 tiny beds. The cottage was messy and covered in dust. "Whoever lives here needs help," Snow White thought. She cleaned and swept and tidied until the cottage sparkled. That evening, 7 dwarfs returned from working in the diamond mines. They were shocked to find their cottage clean. "Someone's been here," they said shockingly. One of the dwarfs, always the calm and wise leader, smiled and said, "Well, whoever it was did a wonderful job cleaning. Let's find them." They tiptoed upstairs and found Snow White asleep across 3 of their tiny beds. When she woke, they surrounded her, amazed. "Who are you?" they asked. Snow White told them her sad tale about the jealous queen, the huntsman Mercy, and her desperate fight through the forest. The dwarfs' hearts melted. "You poor child," said the leader. "You can stay with us. We'll protect you." The other 6 dwarfs all agreed. Snow White had found a new family. Days turned into weeks, and Snow White lived happily with 7 dwarfs. She cooked and cleaned while they worked in the mines. Every evening they returned home to her wonderful meals and warm smile. But the dwarfs warned her, "Never open the door to strangers. The queen may still be looking for you." One day the evil queen asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true, but beyond the 7 mountains, with the 7 dwarfs, Snow White still lives, and she is 1,000 times more beautiful than you." The queen shrieked with rage. The huntsman had betrayed her. She would handle this herself. Using dark magic, the queen disguised herself as an old peddler woman. She traveled to the dwarf's cottage carrying beautiful combs. When Snow White answered the door, the old woman offered to comb her lovely hair. The moment the poisoned comb touched Snow White's head, she collapsed. When the dwarfs returned and found her, they removed the comb and she awakened. "The queen!" they cried. "You must never answer the door again." But the evil queen was relentless. She created a perfect apple, red, shiny, and beautiful. But one half was poisoned with a sleeping death. She disguised herself as a different old woman, a poor farmer's wife. "I'm just a hungry traveler," she called through the window. "Won't you share an apple with me?" Snow White hesitated, remembering the dwarf's warning. "I'll eat half myself," the old woman said, biting the non-poisonous side. "See, perfectly safe." Convinced it was safe, Snow White took the poisoned half and bit into it. Instantly she fell to the ground, as still as death. The evil queen cackled with triumph and fled. When the 7 dwarfs returned home, they found Snow White lying motionless. No matter what they tried, they couldn't wake her. Their hearts were broken. The dwarfs couldn't bear to bury Snow White underground. She looked as though she were merely sleeping, her skin still as white as snow, her lips still as red as roses. They made a beautiful glass coffin and placed her in it, surrounded by flowers. They wrote her name in gold letters and kept watch over her day and night, weeping for the princess they had grown to love. Months passed. One day, a young prince was riding through the forest when he saw the glass coffin surrounded by grieving dwarfs. He approached and looked at Snow White's beautiful, peaceful face. "Who is she?" he asked in wonder. When the dwarfs told him her tragic story, the prince's heart filled with sorrow. "She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," he whispered. "May I pay my respects?" The prince knelt beside the coffin, moved by Snow White's beauty and tragedy of her fate. Unable to help himself, he gently lifted the glass lid and placed a tender kiss on her forehead, a kiss of pure love and respect. Suddenly, something miraculous happened. The piece of poisoned apple dislodged from Snow White's throat. She gasped, her eyes fluttered open, the color returned to her cheeks. "Where am I?" she murmured. The dwarfs shouted with joy. They danced and cried and hugged each other. The prince, overjoyed and amazed, took Snow White's hand. "You're alive!" he exclaimed. Snow White looked into his kind eyes and smiled. "I don't know how this is possible," the king said, "but from the moment I saw you, my heart knew you were special. Will you come with me to my kingdom? Will you be my princess?" Snow White looked at the 7 dwarfs who had become her family, then at the prince who had saved her. Her heart was full of gratitude and hope. "Yes," she said softly, "yes, I will." Meanwhile, back at the castle, the evil queen stood before the mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" she asked triumphantly. The mirror replied, "You, my queen, were once fair, but Snow White, now awake and alive, is still 1,000 times more beautiful than you, and soon she will be a queen." The evil queen screamed with rage and fury. In her anger, she stumbled and fell and was never seen again. Evil had destroyed itself. Snow White hugged each of the 7 dwarfs goodbye, tears streaming down her face. "You saved my life," she told them. "You gave me a home when I had nothing. I'll never forget you." The dwarfs cried too, but they were happy for her. "You deserve every happiness, princess," said the leader. "Come visit us any time." Snow White and the prince were married in a grand celebration. She became a beloved queen, known throughout the land for her kindness, wisdom, and generous heart. She often visited the 7 dwarfs in the forest, bringing them gifts and sharing meals just like old times. The magic mirror was destroyed and vanity's power was broken. Snow White ruled with love and compassion, proving that true beauty comes from within and that goodness and kindness will always triumph over evil and jealousy. So what can we learn from Snow White's tale? True beauty is not just about how you look, it's about who you are. A kind heart shines brighter than any mirror. Jealousy destroys the person who feels it. Kindness is never wasted, and good always triumphs over evil. Remember, your character is your real beauty, and no mirror can measure the worth of a good heart. And that is the timeless wisdom of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. The end.